right here, amongst some others. First time we're going to hear about the ANC's position. Minister, tell us.
240 people actually voted no, so which I guess is a victory for you. But what is interesting, Mr. Mantashe, is that you had 5 members, some of them very senior, who voted with the opposition.
No, it is not significant. In one vote of no confidence against Zuma, up to 37 members of the ANC voted with the opposition. 5, you can't describe that as significant. But we'll report that 5 members and cite their name to the ANC to put them in ANC processes. What is important here, we have a party political system and people are here on the party list. Nobody contests a constituency, and therefore when we have discussions in the party and take decisions, they must be binding.
So what are you going to do to these members who have openly voted against the party directive?
We'll report to the ANC that 5 members voted against the party directive, and they will go to explain to the party processes what that means in real terms.
So are you not worried that this perhaps points to a bigger issue of divisions within the party if senior members would stand up in front of everyone to say, I go against the party?
Now, division is a character of any party. Leave the fact that people say they want secret vote for the ANC and think that everybody else is united. There's no such a thing. All parties have their own dynamics. The ANC has its own dynamics and we must deal with them. That's why when there are 5 people who dissent, we must report to the ANC and the ANC must follow that through.
Good day, South Africa. Current and former National Executive Committee or NEC members of the ruling party are at odds with each other on the premise of protecting the incumbent president Cyril Ramaphosa as he faces criticisms and lawsuits regarding his handling of the affairs at his Phala farm. After having survived the Constitution's Section 89 parliamentary vote on Tuesday the 13th of December, President Ramaphosa is facing the prospect of getting challenged again by the DA's invoking of their Section 49 and 50 process, which will require him to dissolve Parliament and announce an early national election. The magnitude of the allegations brought forth thus far against President Ramaphosa pertaining to his false declaration that only $580,000 in cash was stolen from his farm's premises resulted in Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo's order that a suffrage process be conducted in Parliament to determine whether or not the President may continue to occupy his office. Former State Security Agency or SSA Director General Arthur Fraser divulged in an affidavit that the exact amount that was stolen from the President's farm was unknown. However, he estimated that it was in the region of between $4 million to $8 million. Fraser also pointed out an isolated transaction which was between the President's farm's representative, Mr. Ndlovu, and a Sudanese businessman, Mr. Mustafa Mohammed Ibrahim Hazim, which entailed the viewing and purchasing of buffaloes at the Phala farm, which was concluded with a $580,000 cash payment to Mr. Ndlovu. Furthermore, Fraser attested on the various illegal monies which were received by the President's closest advisor, Benjani Chauke, whose sources were from countries such as Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Egypt, Morocco, and Equatorial Guinea. 3 months ago, President Ramaphosa went on a trip to Saudi Arabia and upon his return confirmed that to date an amount of $1 billion has been invested in South Africa by Saudi Arabia through a company called ACWA Power. As per the Gulf Times publication, the bilateral trade between South Africa and Qatar, which comprises mainly of petrochemicals, in the first half of 2022 totaled an amount of 646 million Qatari riyals, with a trade surplus of 358 million Qatari riyals. According to the Observatory of Economic Complexity or the OEC, the coal, briquettes, sulfate chemical, wood pulps, delivery trucks, frozen fish and phosphatic fertilizers, that South Africa traded with Morocco in just the month of August this past year have been worth a total of 762 million rand. Having President Ramaphosa conducting personal business transactions with the above-mentioned countries over and above their existing trade relationship with South Africa constitutes to gratification. Our Prevention and Combating of Corrupt Activities Act 12 of 2004's Chapter 2, Part 3, Subsection 10A explains that, quote, any person, A, who is party to an employment relationship and who directly or indirectly accepts or agrees or offers to accept from any person any unauthorized gratification, whether for the benefit of that person or for the benefit of another person, in respect of that party doing any act in relation to the exercise, carrying out or performance of that party's powers, duties or functions within the scope of that party's employment relationship, is guilty of the offense of receiving an unauthorized gratification, unquote. Building onto the president's culpability of possessing illicit monies, which was shown by his failure to report the 2020 burglary at his Palapala farm in Limpopo, is more evidence brought forward by the independent online publication. It showed that, subsequent to the Palapala expose, President Ramaphosa implicated two individuals, identified only as Zahir and Carl, by sinisterly transferring $20 million and $10 million to them, respectively, in what seemed like a money laundering ploy disguised as a property deal. Herman Mashaba, president of Actionsa'S, expressed Actionsa'S' desire to have had a secret ballot granted to Parliament for the Section 89 vote. South Africa has witnessed the ruling party conducting its 55th national conference this past month, and the results thereof have been a cause of many a discussion amongst concerned citizens pertaining to the future economic and political state of this land. What has resulted from the electoral process, which was facilitated by the ANC's internal structure, was the re-election of President Cyril Ramaphosa into retention of his position as party president, much to the amazement of opposition parties. Considering the current state of our country's employment, power production, and financial figures, one would think that the members of the ruling party would seek solutions by electing new leaders into power. However, this hasn't exactly been the case. These were the sights and sounds at the concluding day of the NASREC conference.
All right, as promised, let's cross over live now to the NASREC, where the elective conference is basically wrapping up. And today is the final day, but still a lot to get through today. And Sakina has been there from the beginning at the ANC's 55th National Conference. So let's go there. SK, good morning to you. How are you and the team doing up there? It's been a very, very long couple of days. But I suppose wrapping up, what can we expect today? Good morning to you.
Today, what we are expecting is, of course, the announcement at around midday of the NEC members as that particular nominations process has been concluded. Voting is underway. So we expect to have that announcement, we were told, around midday. And then if all things go according to plan, all things being equal, President Cyril Ramaphosa then, of course, expected to give his closing address between 1 and 2 p.m. But we have seen over the last 5 days, nothing has really run according to the time that it was scheduled to, but hopefully today will, because you can imagine, Leanne, a lot of the delegates still have to make their way home, and many of them have been driven here via bus, so we're looking at that situation as well. But of course, it would seem last time around here at NASREC, the buzz phrase was unity. This time around, it is discipline, and we heard there from various members that the ANC will be taking action against those members who were disruptive during the opening proceedings on day one. The various provincial chairpersons will, of course, be taking that particular line back to their provinces, dealing with those who caused disruptions. And of course, we've also been told that the newly elected ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, well, he will be making a trip to go and have tea with Ubaba Jacob Zuma, the former president of the ANC, to discuss some of these matters. Then the issue of paralysis in the NEC, that is something that hopefully, according to those who we've spoken to, will be taken care of today during the voting for NEC members, so that they would not have what was called previously zebra, which was of course an accommodation of both sides of the slates that had emerged during Nasrec, and seemingly there's a push to get a more unified slate chosen, elected for the NEC, so that the discipline can be enforced a little more easily, and also take care of the paralysis that seems to have set in at the NEC.
Voted in to replace Ace Magashule as Secretary General, or SG, is Transport Minister Fikile Mbalula, whose incumbent parliamentary cabinet tenure has been characterized by an unprotected railway system which saw train tracks being stolen and smuggled into foreign countries. Also, Minister Mbalula has had to report to the public protector, Busim Kwebane, about the irregular appointment of ministerial advisors in the transport department and the financial wastage implications thereof. The incoming SG has to manage the paying back of state monies which were squandered under his watch, when these irregularly appointed ministerial advisors were paid salaries in the regions of 1.4 million rands and 1.5 million rands prior to being approved by the Minister of Public Service and Administration, Senzo Mkhulu. In line with the Public Services Act number 103 of 1994, Chapter 8, Section 38, subsection 1A, which has been amended during its years of existence by Parliament, and states that in the instance where there has been, quote, wrongly granted remuneration, unquote, the following shall apply to Minister Mbalula. Quote, 1A. If an incorrect salary level, salary scale, or reward is awarded to an employee, the relevant executive authority shall correct it with effect from the date on which it commenced, unquote. The National Chairperson position has been awarded to current Mineral Resources and Energy Minister Gwede Mantashe, whom the Organization Undoing Tax Abuse, or OTA, has most recently taken to task over his inability to, quote, implement a formidable energy plan and an update on the 2019 Integrated Resource Plan, or IRP, unquote. During Minister Mantashe's tenure in the presidential cabinet, he hasn't managed to retrieve the bodies of the employees of the Lily Gold mine whose column collapsed 8 years ago, burying them underground. Such an underperformance is glaring compared to the developing economy of Chile, which was able to do in 69 days an extraction which South Africa cannot achieve 10% of in terms of depth in over 8 years. Former Minister of Environmental Affairs, Nomvula Mokonyane, has been elected in as the first Deputy SG after she has 3 years ago been accused of corruption at the Zondo Commission of Inquiry into state capture by former Bosasa COO Angelo Agrizi. She has denied allegations made against her by Agrizi pertaining to repairs carried out at her house which were financed by Bosasa. The 50,000 rands monthly payments made to her by the then Bosasa CEO Gavin Watson added to the chains of evidence which were gathered against her, leading to investigations whose findings were regarded by the State Capture Report as some of the components of the state capitalism which our government is a subject of. Despite the ruling party's mandate of not qualifying party position candidates who are subjected to charges or indictments due to, quote, unethical or immoral conduct or any serious crime or corruption, unquote, the above-mentioned candidates who are linked to such illicitness accepted nomination and went on to being elected. Herman Mashaba, Actionsa'S president, is highlighting this significant event in South Africa's history. Thank you.